Welcome to the Communication Diva Podcast, episode 71. In this episode, the Diva responds to a listener's question on what to do about a workplace bully. Many years ago, I had to deal with a workplace bully. My first act was to send away for Charles Atlas's free book that I saw advertised in the back of my favorite comic. My second act was to remove the sand from the floor of my cubicle.
Hi, you are listening to Jen Swanson, and this is the Communication Diva Podcast, the podcast that hopes to entertain you, to help you to deepen your communication skills, and to bring you interesting people who use communication in a variety of ways in their work and in their lives, and just for a little bit of inspiration, I think, as well. I have some interesting people lined up for you this summer. It is June right now. I can't believe it's June. It's so fast. It's going like crazy. And I've got a couple of people that I'm going to be bringing to you this summer. One of them is a woman who works with horses and children with disabilities. And so she is going to be talking about how the children and the horses communicate with each other in the work that she does. So that should be an interesting interview. And then the other one is going to be a little bit spicy. And this is a woman who calls herself the bedroom joyologist. And I've been looking forward to interviewing her for a long time now. And we finally got it together to meet sometime in the middle of July. So I'm hoping to bring you that interview about bedroom communication. And we will try and keep this a family-rated show, but that one might have to have a disclaimer on it. I'm not sure yet, having not actually met her. So I'm glad to be able to bring you these things. And today's episode is going to be talking about workplace bullying, and this was spurred on by a listener. Someone who used the SpeakPipe application and left a question on SpeakPipe as a voicemail, and I'm going to play you that question, and then I'm going to talk about workplace bullying and possibilities and strategies and things that might be able to be done. So I'm going to break here and play you her call, and then we'll go from there.
Hi Jen, my name is Marina. I listen to your podcast every day, and I think you're terrific. I love your advice, and you make a lot of sense. I just have one question I'm on my job. I work in the medical field, and I have one coworker. She's quite a bully, and she's turning all my coworkers against me. And whenever I approach my supervisor, she she always seems to say that it's how I perceive things. It's how I perceive things, and I don't think so. It's quite obvious that my coworker does not like me and turning my coworkers against me. Thank you.
So let's start off with how you know that you're dealing with a bully. And in this case, it sounds like it's somebody who is rallying other people to join in the activity that this person is proliferating. Now, most of the time, workplace bullying is a psychological thing. It usually isn't physical, because physical abuse would be, of course, crossing, a big line, and is not so subtle. And workplace bullies tend to be a little more subtle and harder to pin down, which is why it is such a common problem. It sounds like our listener has been dealing with somebody who is a workplace bully, and the psychological bullying, as it sounds in this case, can be just as devastating, if not more so, than physical bullying would be. Again, because it's hard to prove, it's hard to pin down, it's hard to quantify. And so some of the things that might tip you off to the fact that you're dealing with a bully would be that you're noticing a pattern. So there's this repeated, over time, this repeated experience of negative behavior. If you feel like you're being targeted, you might be dealing with a bully. And a bully is somebody who intimidates or minimizes or insults or belittles or makes unreasonable demands of you or invades your personal space or touches your stuff, threatens you in some way, maybe sabotages you, and as in Marina's case, gossips about you to others, spreading malicious rumors, steals ideas, or maybe even takes credit for the work that you do. There are numerous other ways that a person could bully, but those are some of sort of the most common ways that a person might be bullied. And before we get into ideas or strategies on how to deal with it, let's talk about side effects from workplace bullying. And there are lots of them. Some of them are physical. Sometimes people who are experiencing bullying in the workplace can experience sleep disturbances. So either you're awake and thinking about stuff in the middle of the night, you're experiencing insomnia, or you're wanting to sleep all the time, because sometimes, just curling up and closing your eyes and making it all go away is relief. Insomnia can exacerbate how you're feeling, though, because if you haven't had a good night's sleep, everything looks even worse, right? So not sleeping is really bad for your health as well. Headaches you can have, stomach pains, body tension, muscle stress. I know when I'm stressed, I clench my jaw, which gives me headaches. It's one of the signs that I've got. For some people, there are appetite changes. Either they eat all the time as a nervous habit, or they stop eating. So that can be a problem. And for some people, unfortunately, it's increased use of substances, the drugs and alcohol. Some of the more psychological side effects are things like a drop in morale or self-esteem, drop in confidence, lack of concentration, the inability to actually focus on the work that you're trying to do, panic attacks, anxiety and depression, lack of motivation, like you just don't want to try, and fear also. And I'm sure there are more that you might have that you could add to the list. Some things to know. You are not at fault for being bullied. It's never your fault if somebody is treating you this way. So it's not anything that you have done that has caused somebody else to treat you in this miserable way. There is absolutely no excuse for workplace bullying. It's wrong no matter what. And so that can be hard to remember, that it's not because of something you've done or haven't done that this person is doing this repeated pattern of miserable behavior. There is no excuse for any kind of bullying, and it's always wrong. The other thing to remember is that you can't control what a bully does or doesn't do. You can only control what you do, and that is where you can exercise quite a bit of control. So Marina, you can't control that this person is running around talking to your coworkers and spreading gossip about you. You can't control that piece of it. But there are some things that you can do that in the end might make a difference. The first thing is to keep a record or a journal of everything. So all the events that happen, all the times that you notice the person is doing the whatever it is that they're doing, make sure you keep dates, times, and a description of what happened. You don't have to add emotion to it. It needs to be a descriptive record, a non-judgmental record, because you might need that later on to show to a manager or a supervisor or something. So keep a record of every time that an incident happens, and just a brief description without any judgment or emotion of what it is that happened. And keep copies of any written correspondence from the bully if they've sent you emails or texts or whatever, or notes. Make sure you keep that, and keep a copy of any performance appraisals that you've gotten for your job, just in a way of proving that you can do your job well. And if the bully is the person that does your performance appraisals, then it would be good to have a record of what they look like. So keep copies of any kind of correspondence that you get. As with any conflict, it's always best to try to start with the bully, him or herself. Now, this is hard and challenging, and I do say that all of this takes a lot of courage and strength, but it is often the best way. And if you start with a bully, sometimes it will stop there, because bullies like to pick on people who are meek and timid and don't fight back. So if you can address the bully directly, make sure you use I language. And if you're not clear on I language, I do have a post and a podcast episode about I language. So go back and check that. And be objective about the behavior. So you don't want to be accusing the person. You want to be matter of fact and describe what happens when they do this behavior and how it makes you feel. So for example, I feel embarrassed when you give me feedback in front of everybody in the office. I would really appreciate it if you have something to share that you do it in private with me in the staff room. So it's I feel embarrassed. I would appreciate it. It's not saying, you tell me all the things I've done wrong in the office and you're embarrassing me. It's how I feel. So it's all sometimes in the way that you say it. The other thing you can do with the person directly is to set limits or boundaries with them. Let him or her know what you will not accept and what you want them to stop doing. So be clear and firm, about that. So, I'm not going to be listening to this. I will listen to it if you come and talk to me in private, that kind of thing. And, if they start to talk to you in the middle of the office in front of everybody, you can actually just put your hand up. I've done this before, but put your hand up to stop them from talking and just walk away and say, I'll talk to you when we're in the back room, that kind of thing. So you have to be a little bit assertive in a case like this. Be sure when you're talking to this person that you're focusing on the issue or the problem behavior, but not on the person. You don't want to turn it into a personal attack or you'll become a bully yourself. So you want to focus on the issue or the behavior. This behavior is a problem for me, not that you are a problem for me, even though that may be true, but you want to focus on the behavior. So, I am uncomfortable and frustrated that I feel that you're, sharing information with other people about me that isn't actually true. And, if there's something you want to talk to me about, I would really appreciate that you come and talk to me about it rather than sharing it with everyone else in the office, that kind of thing. And if this sounds too scary or too challenging to do it by yourself, try and bring someone with you for support. If there is someone in your staff that you have a connection with or a relationship with, then it might be helpful for you to make those boundaries, set those boundaries and those limits if you have a witness with you. If it's too hard to do this in person, if you just cannot manage doing it or don't trust that you won't get emotional or upset about it, maybe write it down. Either write it in an email, be careful how you construct your email, again using your I language, or write a registered letter, because registered letters have to be signed for at the other end so that to prove that they got it. Make sure whatever you send, you keep copies of so that you've got it in your little portfolio. If talking to the person directly is not going to work, approach the supervisor next. And remember again to use I language and only describe the behavior in a factual way. And if you have a record or a journal of events, then at least you'll have something concrete for the supervisor to look at with dates and times and situations. And sometimes just something written out will be, more concrete and something that they can deal with. You're basically registering a complaint. If your supervisor is not willing or able to help you, and it sounded from the phone call, Marina, that your supervisor disagrees and says that it's a matter of perception. Well, it might be their perception that this is not upsetting to you, But if the reality is for you that it is a behavior that's hurting you, that's upsetting you, then it would be an important thing to say that and to have, again, a record or a journal of events. And if that isn't going to work, or if the supervisor is the person that is doing the bullying, then you need to move to the next level of management. So there's got to be a manager of the supervisor that you're dealing with, or perhaps a human resources person. Maybe there's a union representative if you're working for a union, or maybe you're in a professional association. And those would be the next steps if the direct supervisor is not going to be of help. You might also look to see if you have an employee handbook, because perhaps there is a harassment policy. Harassment, some people say. And this should have concrete steps for you to follow, sort of the chain of who you go to next, written out in an employee handbook. If the bullying is focused on ethnicity or gender or age or disabilities, physical abilities, religion, or marital status, you may have legislation under the Human Rights Act in your area, and that would be something to look into as well. So if the person is gossiping about you or bullying that is focused on any of these areas, then you might actually have a human rights claim in your favor. And I mean, if none of these other people are going to help you, you might actually want to seek legal counsel and figure out if you need to go that far. So, some strategies. Try to avoid being alone with the person if at all possible. Just try not to put yourself in a place where they are going to be, if you can. Stay with other people. Focus on building positive relationships with other people that you work with so that you have a support network. And to do that, avoid gossiping about the bully, however, because you'll just fuel that fire. So try to work on making positive connections with other people so that they will see that you are a great person, and that the gossip or the rumors that are being spread by this person are unsubstantiated. Resist retaliation, because that will just be playing the same game, and it will turn you into an unprofessional looking person, and it will usually act to escalate the problem. So fighting back or doing the same thing back is just going to make everything worse. So try to avoid doing that. And one of the things to think about is to act, don't react, which of course is easier said than done. But you can only control what you do, and you have no control over what the other person does. So if you just act pleasant and professional and do your job and try not to get sucked into reacting emotionally, then they're not going to have a lot to go on. You know how it works when you don't react to somebody who's bugging you. Think of toddlers, right? Or little children that are pestering and bugging, a sibling or something. You poke and you make faces at the sibling and you get a reaction, and then you keep doing it because the reaction is great. Well, if the sibling just completely ignores, the poking or the prodding or the face making, then it gets boring after a while, and maybe they'll stop. So think about that and try to act rather than react. Have courage. I said that before. It takes strength and courage to stand up for yourself, even if nobody else seems to be listening. If you persist in bringing this complaint to someone's attention, eventually somebody is going to take you seriously and will hear you and will reach out and help. I think if you're consistent in bringing this up to managers or people above the immediate supervisor, eventually someone will start to take you seriously, especially if you are documenting things. And if it looks like if they're not going to help you, then you're going to move to someone who will. They might get a little bit worried and need to start taking this seriously. So I would suggest that you're, again, calm and unemotional about it, but firm and serious, that you are needing help, and that if they're not going to help you, supervisor, not going to help you, then you'll go to the next person who might. As far as the bully themselves go, try again not to show emotion to them. Emotion is only going to spur them on. Keep calm and rational and cool, even if it's only on the outside. You might be feeling really emotional on the inside, but try really hard not to show it. Another idea is to learn as much as you can about workplace bullying and equip yourself with strategies and ideas. And there are a lot of ideas out there. It is such a big topic. There is a lot of stuff on the internet that you can look at. Another idea is to get counseling or coaching to help you navigate the situation, because again, you can't change the other person, but you may need some help to figure out how to walk through this if you choose to stay in the situation. So counseling or coaching might help, and again, that would add to your documentation, especially if it's costing you money and you have to now pay for somebody to help you through this. That's more fodder for your portfolio. If nothing else is working and you've exhausted all these avenues, it might be time to start looking for your next employment adventure. And I know that might not be possible. It might not be what you want to do, but in the end, it might be the best answer to ending the anguish of having to work every day with somebody who's that awful, especially if you can't get anywhere with changing that. The stress of being in a bullying situation in your workplace is probably, and I can say is not worth risking your health and your well-being. And it may be actually an opportunity to move on and find something that is life-giving instead of life-sucking, which it sounds like the situation might be. So those are some of the things that I can think of, Marina, and I'm wondering if you, the listener, has any thoughts or ideas that would help. If you do, please leave a voice message or a comment or an email and offer some strategies that you would use to help deal with a situation where somebody is spreading gossip, is turning coworkers against one person, is really behaving badly for someone who is supposed to be an adult in a professional setting. And yeah, it's really unfortunate, and it makes me sad that it is all over the place, that there are so many people that are dealing with this right now. So thank you very much for listening, and I am going to sign off now, and I hope that this has been helpful and that you will join the conversation and let me know your thoughts on this topic. Come over to communicationdiva.com and make a connection. And until I talk to you again, take care and be good to each other.